Hello, team. So great work on your. I just finished looking through your process documents. Great work. What a thorough process you went through, and I look forward to reading more about it. I'm going to kind of go through and discuss what I see from a process perspective. I have to admit that your process was so thorough and robust that it's hard for me to sort of insert myself into what seemed to be a very intense dynamic and comment too much, but I do have some comments, especially near the end of the process around your matrix and your criteria. In general, it seemed like the goal that the problem framing of freeing up time for Jeff so that he can grow his business was a really strong framing of the challenge. It seemed from my reading of, and you do have a lot of support, that for this, around the need for him to work on the business, not in the business. It seemed like there were some questions that Jeff had about the recommendation, both in terms of clarity, and now that I've reviewed your documents, it seems like you were kind of putting two ideas together. One that had to do with how he might hire an assistant, and the second had to do with a sort of a strategic idea around reducing his offerings and focusing on all dressed. And I think there was some confusion on Jeff's part around what was being suggested exactly. And then I think there perhaps might be some room for development in terms of your final recommendation. So let me go through your process and discuss. So, your process looks so great, right? There's not much I can say except, when I look at your SWOT, from your assessing, I hope that when you looked at this document as a whole, you felt some pride about the work that you put in. I think I would ask you, so given how faithfully you adhered to the process, what's your assessment now? So was all this work, did it lead you to more robust ideas, or are there things you would do differently? So as you go into this weekend and write your paper, think about what's the relationship between this very robust, excellent process you went through and the results you achieved. I thought it was really interesting. I'm on the page that's, clarification, exploring the vision. I thought it was really interesting how you really converged at this point, and that all of the hits really did have not all of them, most of them really did have a similar theme. Like that you were already sort of thinking around how to grow capacity, as opposed to, for example, how might Jeff expand into Western Canada, right? And so what was going on in the team that enabled this divergence? Was that a good thing that you guys were all sort of aligned? Was it a bad thing? Did it prevent you from seeing other options? Just I'd be curious about how you came to this convergence, which seems like there is a high level of convergence. How did the success zones go? Good job on your part for sort of taking that extra step. How did it go? So I'd be curious about what your informal forced connections was and how effective it was. So please let me know. And I have to admit, you have so much here that it's hard for me to sort of go into every one and really know. Really sort of comment on depth in every page. Sorry, but I do have a comment that I just want to see what I was... oh yeah, so this is just where I remarked that you were focusing on the all dressed and one additional activity. And I'd be curious around what, from your analysis, brought you to the conclusion that he was overextending himself or that he was too diversified, and that thus he would need to consolidate and focus on just all dressed. So I didn't get that in terms of the rationale. What's the problem that you're solving in putting this forward? Okay. Now, you went through many, many iterations of the criteria, and I need to say that I still think the criteria needs work, and let me talk to you about why. Your criteria that you ended up with, 4 criteria. Alignment with vision. How likely is this to be adopted by Jeff? How easily could it be implemented, and will this improve the long-term sustainability of the business? So how likely is this to be adopted by Jeff? That one, unless I'm not understanding something, it seems to be redundant with other criteria. I would assume that if something aligns with Jeff's vision, if it can be easily implemented and will help him grow the business, he would adopt it. So I'm not getting what is being assessed with that criterion that's different, and it seems to me that that should be the sum total of all of your criteria, that it would be that all of them would add up to likelihood of adoption by Jeff. I also began to wonder whether there was a degree of precision that was still needed in your criteria. And in a way, this team was so divergent and thought of so many ideas, and I'll be curious to hear you read your reflections on this in your paper. You know, you were the famous team that's all NPs, right? And was it hard to ascertain what exactly was important in the end? So I'm seeing a fuzziness around the criteria. So for example, what I heard from Jeff, like it seems that that one of the things when he's looking, alignment with vision is a very high level thing, of a high level way of looking at what? Like the quality of the staff, right? Sorry, I'm not being clear. What I'm trying to say is that there were some very concrete things that Jeff was looking at in assessing the quality of the recommendation that I don't think are yet expressed in your criteria. So, for example, alignment with vision. What exactly are you getting at there? What is leading you to decide whether something is aligned with the vision? So, for example, one reason that Jeff might perceive your current recommendation as not aligned with his vision would be that it would limit which kind of stylist you would bring on, because it would be someone who would be willing to work reception, right? If we're understanding it correctly. And so depending on how you're defining alignment of vision, that's not being captured. You don't have to have a solution that rates, as you know, it's trade-off. So even if it's not fully aligned with the vision, it still might be a good solution, but that needs to be captured. So when I go to your matrices, one thing I really appreciate that you did was that when I look at idea number 3, compartmentalize his weekly tasks so that he focuses on fewer balls in the air, that you acknowledge that, yes, that would be the easiest to implement. However, it would be the least aligned with his vision. So I appreciate that you didn't sort of, as people tend to do, that you didn't sort of take your preferred solution, show it as superior in every way to the other alternatives, but rather you seem to genuinely weigh all alternatives. I do still have questions about how you weight them. So as I said, I put question marks why you would give a 5 around the assistant for aligning with Ludic's vision. And I think your assignment of a 5 in that category indicates that you have some idea of what aligning with vision means that's not clearly expressed yet. So work on your criteria to make sure that you're actually assessing what needs to be assessed and what you authentically think. Those are all my comments. I think Jeff offered you some other strong comments. Team, from a process perspective, you did a great job. So as you think about what you're going to be working on as you review your recommendation, sort of look and say, okay, what was in our process that was successful? What was in our process that we would change next time? I greatly appreciate your presence in the class, your wonderful adventurous spirit, and let me know if you have any questions.